That was wonderful. You guys are great. Well, today's talk title is, What Are Your Four Agreements? And I'm inspired, of course, by the Four Agreements. It's actually one of the textbooks for our self-mastery class. But let's do a pop quiz. How many of you? Pop quiz. This is a test. Here's a test. What are the four agreements? Who knows the four agreements? Okay, so what's one agreement? Yes? Oh, yeah. Be impeccable with your words. What's another agreement? Always do your best. What's another agreement? Don't take it personally. And what's the last one? Don't make assumptions. Oh, that'll keep you busy. Really, wouldn't it? Well, these are Don Miguel Ruiz's, they're like commandments. Like, don't do this. Do this. Don't do this. They're commandments. So let's go back to the original commandments. I'm going to wrap this all in together. Honest. You know, let's just take a little Aztec, Mayan shamanism and mix it with a little bit of Hebrew 10 Commandments and see what you get. But before I give it to you, I realize that at the end I'm going to ask you to do something. So does everyone have a program? Because at the bottom of the front page there's a bit of paper to write on. Does everybody have one? And does everybody have a pen so you can write when you get there? Oh, see, pens are showing up. Share pens. This is how Jesus did it. Really. He said, I'm going to share my food, and then pretty soon people were sharing their food, and pretty soon they had 12 baskets left over. All right, so great, we all got it. Because I will end up asking you to write something down. This is just prelude to the ask. Prelude to you doing your part. Thank you. So let's go back to the 10 Commandments. Actually, in the original more original, the Hebrew Hebrew text. It wasn't commandments. That was inserted many interpretations later. The original thing was the 10 things. They were just 10 things. Moses came down with 10 things. And I think what Moses did is he downloaded some information to help that band of people, those tribes, exist and survive and thrive in the world that they existed in. Because if they were going to survive as a tribe, they couldn't kill each other. If they were going to survive as a tribe, they couldn't be stealing from each other. If they were going to survive as a tribe, you can't be envying somebody else's stuff, because that's going to cause contention, and then there's going to be gossip, and pretty soon you have no tribe. So there was this download of instructions, things that would help them not only get through their 40, well, it turned out to be 40 years in the desert. It was only supposed to be 4 days, but you know how time is. How many of you have ever done that? It won't take long. How many of you? Remodel. This was a remodel. They were remodeling the religion, and it took 40 years. So now when you do a remodel, you can go, phew, it's only 4 months. Right. So they had this experience of being in this place that they were just going to leave being slaves and go into being landowners. And they had to shift consciousness. So this download of information came that said, do this, do it this way. And it sounds like a commandment. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. It sounds like a commandment. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. It sounds like a commandment. But what if it wasn't so much a commandment, but in these things, but as a suggestion and at the same time a promise? Do these things and you'll be this thing. Do these things and eventually you will be the person that does these things. It's an expression of this is your potential, this is where you're going, this is what you can look forward to. Like, think about it. How many of you give your power away to others? Or you give your power away to a circumstance. You look at your checkbook and you go spiraling out of control. You just gave power to your checkbook. How many of you give power to the bills that come in? How many of you give powers to your boss? Or power to a coworker? Or power to a neighborhood association? You give power to the economy. How many of you have given your power away to what might happen in November? Because you've made an assumption. That's having a God before you. Whatever you give power to is your God. Whatever you give attention to is your God. Whatever you are fearful of is your God. And so, can you see that the practice of having no gods before me eventually gets you to the place where you are so sure of the presence of goodness in you that you go out into your world and you don't see these things as gods with power over you. You just see these things as things to encounter and to work with. They're just what they are. Because there's no God before you. Have no other gods before me. Put this God first. That's a promise. There's a promise that eventually you'll come to the place where you will be so secure within yourself that you never have to lie, you never have to fib, and you never have to withhold the truth. There will be a time when you'll be so secure within yourself that you wouldn't even think of taking something, whether people were looking or not. And this isn't you, because you are here at the Center for Spiritual Living, but statistics say, and also surveys say, that most people would take things if nobody looked. But that's not you. So buy this CD and share it with someone. What if there was a time when you were so content? Think about it. Now go to content. You are so content with your life that you are no longer coveting the life of someone else. There's no envy and no jealousy, and the grass is not greener over there. Even if you have a small little piece of grass, it's really good grass because you're so content. You are so satisfied. See, it seems like a thing that we must do, and we've read it that way because we've thought that God's making us wrong. God doesn't make its creation wrong. It looked out over everything that it made, including you, and said, oh, this is good, 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 good. Well, it only said good once in the Bible, but still. It does. It's like, it's so good. When you really check in, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You know that the universe thinks you're good. So if the universe thinks you're good, it's not going to set up traps. Don't lie. Don't steal. Oh, I actually talked about this on I did a video for Facebook last night, and I said, I always prided myself that I'd never killed anybody. 1 out of 10. Now some of you are going through them, aren't you? And I thought, but how many times have I not supported somebody in their dream? And by my unsupport, it killed their dream. How many of you have ever killed someone's hope by just a look? But there will be a time when that just won't be a part of us. It's a promise. The Spirit of love says this is how you can be. Now practice, 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 but you're going to love this life. You're going to love this life when you no longer take the Lord's name in vain, and the Lord's name, according to the Bible, is I am. So you no longer say I'm poor, I'm unhealthy, I'm sick, I'm worthless, I'm not any good. You wouldn't say that. There will be a time when you will stretch into yourself and it won't even cross your mind to say those things. It's a promise. It is your future. You practice? These might be the 10 practices for the eventual promise. Because if we do have a promise, if there is something that is promised to us, we still have to reach out and take it. And we reach out and take it by just doing a practice. Doesn't that feel freer than something is setting up this obstacle course and then checking it off? Not only do we do it, but how do we land? And the same thing can be true or be said about the 4 agreements, because those were Don Miguel Ruiz's download for how to not be the victim of circumstances, to not be a victim of your world. If you're not going to be a victim of the world, it's really easy. Just be impeccable with your word. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and do your best. Until you just can't some days. Be impeccable with your word is huge. Yeah, you tell the truth, but do you follow through? Do you negotiate and then renegotiate? Don't take things personally, even when they're meant to be personal. See how it's like it seems easy, but then it can be huge? Because you bug some people. Don't you? Who knows they bug somebody? Well, the first stage is stop poking that button. And the second stage is don't take it personally that they think it's personal. People won't like us. And then pretty soon it just doesn't even matter. Wouldn't that be freeing? How many of you have had to not only manage your life, but manage how other people respond to you? Boy, that's huge. That's a lot of work. So all of these are promises. There's a promise that there will be a time when you are so clean with your communication. There was promises that there'll be a time when you know that people will have reactions, but you're not responsible for the reactions. And you honestly don't just tell yourself that you're not responsible for the reactions. You actually just don't feel responsible for their reactions. There will be a time when you won't make assumptions. You will take the time to ask questions. I mean, first service, I heard a word wrong. And somebody said that we're on the freeway and they were in a motorcycle and it died. Well, I thought he said it dived. And I saw, all of a sudden in my mind, I saw this motorcycle going off the bank of a freeway, and they were going at 65 miles an hour, and I saw him tumbling all over. I mean, amazing. I said, and you're still walking? He said, yeah, it just died. Do you see how, if you're not making assumptions, you follow through? Did I say that word dive? Do you see how you can we don't take the time? I didn't take the time. But there'll be a time when we always want to know more, where we are not so fast to make an assumption about things, which is don't assume. And there'll be a time when we do our best, but we also do our best to know that our best may not be the best according to someone else. But Tim and I have different definitions of best. He doesn't think I do my best, especially cleaning house. I know I do my very best. The best that I want to do. It's as good as I want to do. So do you see how it could all get weird? But wouldn't it be great if you just went through life and you were so free? You were free to talk. You were free to converse. You are free to ask more questions. You're free to be in the presence of someone even if that someone isn't comfortable with you. You're free to do what you do and know that it's good enough because right now your internal direction says this is as good as it gets right now, and you give yourself a break. That's a promise. That's what we're going into. That's what we're evolving into. That's why some of these things were written, is because someone had a download of this is the future of humanity. It's not do this, because otherwise we just set ourselves up for failure. But boy, this is where you're going. Oh, really? This is where I'm going? What freedom. And then when we're free from all that stuff, we get to really move into our spiritual evolution by being creative and explosive in problem solving, whether it's personal, cultural, or for the planet itself. Well, those were the ideas that I came up with, and then I thought, well, if Don Miguel can come up with 4 agreements, why can't you? Why can't we? So I'm just going to suggest some things. Where do you want to have the life that you want? And are you willing to make an agreement to yourself to have that? Obviously, Don Miguel wanted to be meticulous with his conversations. Don Miguel wanted to do his best. So he created these agreements, but they're agreements to do until you are, until you become. And then they're just, so what? Or so. So what would you like to do? What kind of life do you want to live? How do you want to show up in the world? I'm going to suggest some things, and at the end, I'm going to let you have a download of what is it that I am being called to live, and therefore that I'm being called to agree with. To agree with. First of all, let's look at the idea of having more love. Now, oftentimes we talk about being more loving, but I was talking about having more love. How would you like to be more loved in the world? More loved by your family, by your friends, by your significant other, to attract a significant other, more loved by the people around you, to just be more loved. Who'd like to have more love? Yeah, it's usually one of those things like, oh, no. Well, no, some people, if you're really honest, you don't want more love. It sounds good. But if you really look beyond that part about I don't want more love, and you look more inside, since you are love itself, you really do want more love. When we get through the fear, deep down inside, we'd like more love. And we get to learn to accept that love. Now, there's whole talks that I give about being loving. This is about receiving love. Letting the universe letting God love you. To do that, you could do something like, I agree to see myself as lovable and appreciated. I see just as instead of I will be impeccable with my word, it's I agree to see myself as lovable and appreciated. And you'll see that until all of a sudden you see that. I'm lovable and appreciated. The biblical story behind this is when Jesus went to the house of Mary and Martha's in the kitchen cooking, and she probably is overwhelmed, and she says, Jesus! I don't think she said it quite that way. Jesus! Send Mary in here. No, really, his name was Joshua. Joshua, send Mary in here. There are no Jewish Jesuses. Just telling you. There isn't any. His name was Joshua. Joshua! Send Mary in here. And Mary is busy, while Martha's in the kitchen loving. Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus, looking up at him, putting oil on his feet, looking at him adoringly, and he's with her. And Jesus says, Martha, you don't understand. She's got the better deal. She is taking the better portion of life. I'm not going to always be here, but she's letting me love her. Are you willing to let people, God, the universe, love you? If you want that, agree to that. I see myself as lovable and appreciated. For those of you that would like a better experience of bodily health, you could agree to having and caring for your precious, miraculous body. Agree to care for your precious, miraculous body until you realize you have a precious, miraculous body. Because things will go wrong. I mean, who's ever had something that went wrong in their body? We should see hands. Sometimes they don't go wrong, but sometimes they do. But if we always focus on what's wrong, we can't appreciate what's really working, and the body's energy is going to follow our thoughts, so appreciate what works. I've watched a lot of people go through a lot of physical stuff, and those people who know that this is a situation that they'll get through, that the body can handle it, they get through those things much faster than the ones that fixate on what's going wrong. It just seems to make a difference. So appreciate your miraculous, precious body, or your precious, miraculous body. I appreciate, I care for. I am in agreement with my precious, miraculous body. How many of you would like a greater sense of wealth and well-being? It's called money. Who would like that? I mean, only in this society. I mean, if we were in another society, it'd be shells. Or who's got the most wheat. Actually, money was invented because it was really difficult to travel long distances with the whole herd. Because that was the wealth. It was the herd. It was the cattle. Well, that's difficult. When we became more mobile, we had to invent something else. So, financial well-being is an agreement that you make. So how about, I am completely abundant? Say that out loud. So you get to start to see, if you start saying I'm completely abundant, you're going to see where you don't feel abundant, and that's when you get to say I'm completely abundant. I'm completely abundant. So when you feel unloved, you get to say, no, I see myself as being loved and appreciated, until you are loved and appreciated. And you say I'm abundant until you really feel abundant. Who's going to start, and when is it going to start? You are creative. You're meant to be creative. And if you don't want to bake cakes and paint pictures and sing songs, then be creative with what you have, which is you. And you start with just an agreement. It's a promise. You're promising yourself that this is my future. You continue to work towards it, to make steps, and then it will be your future. I am abundant, and you see what happens. There was a time a few years ago I really wanted to start saving more money. And I looked at my finances, and I thought, I don't know how I can save more money. This is what I can save. And yet I started to save just a little bit more money. And now I'm really socking it away. And nothing's changed. I'm not making any more. But because I decided I would become a saver and I am abundant, all of a sudden I have the money to do what I need to do and save a lot. I mean, I've always been a saver. I'm a squirreler. I'm a little squirrel. I like to squirrel things away. But I wanted to have even bigger cheeks and squirrel more away. And it's happening. I'm like amazed. There's a gentleman in this room that I won't call out, but he decided that he wanted to go back to Egypt. And the first time that he went to Egypt, he had a well-paying job at Boeing. Well, this time he didn't have that well-paying job. But he decided to go, and he was abundant. And money just started to show up, little bits, little bits, little bits, little bits, little bits, little bits, and then the trip was paid for. See, too many of us, and this is another thing, we wait. We wait. I did a whole thing on this on Facebook. We wait. What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the one to complete you? Ooh, ick. If you're only half there, so are they. How awful is that? Oh, goody, I have found half a person. No. I mean, it sounds funny, but honestly, absurdity is funny. That's what makes great comedy. It's absurd to wait. You don't know how long you're going to be here. You don't know what life is except for this very moment. What are you waiting for? So if you want something, say, I'm an abundant, and hold it in mind and move forward in it. If you want to be lovable, say, I'm lovable. And then notice how people seem to like you. Which brings me to the next thing, which is if you want to be happy, agree that now's a good time to be happy. What if this was your only thing? Now's a good time to be happy. Now's a good time to be happy. The Native Americans said it a different way, so I'm going to have to interpret it for you. Their saying was, today's a good day to die. Sounds kind of grotesque, but what they're saying is, if I could die today, then I might as well live today. Today's a great day to be happy. I've watched so many people they can't be happy because it's not done. It's not complete. It's not all together. There's still this little thing hanging out. Well, there will always be a thing hanging out. Let's just say this together. There's always going to be a thing hanging out. You're going to postpone your happiness for that thing? I mean, really, do you get how crazy that is? I'm just here saying what part of your mind has been trying to tell you all morning. I bet, people come here and they say, I heard just what I needed to hear. Yes, because you want to hear this. I'm only telling you what your soul already knows and you believe. You just get to hear it now. There's no reason to wait. This is a perfect day to enjoy yourself because you're going to choose to enjoy yourself. The agreement is now's a good day to be happy. Or a good time to be happy. Let's say that together. Now is a good time to be happy. The last one that I want to talk about is that now's a really great time, and we can make an agreement to create a better world. We can make a better world. You can make the world a better place. We have a whole group of people that create a better world team. But whether you're on that team or not on that team, that's the team that sent people to Alabama to build a house. They're the ones that do rebuilding together. They do a lot of things. They do animal ministry. They collect food. They pack food. They distribute food. They do a lot of things. And Jonathan cooks for, it's a homeless shelter, isn't it? Homeless shelter. Residents once a month. There's lots of ways to do this. But what can happen is that we can say to ourselves, I don't have anything really to give. I don't have the time. I don't have the skill. We still can have a tendency to believe in significance. And if we're not giving something that we think is significance, we just hold back, and that's waiting. That's just called waiting. Let's just call it what it is. We want it to be significant. It's got to be big. It's got to be whatever. And no, I'm not, and I realize I'm talking about myself. That I hold back because I don't think it would be significant enough. That I just, I really want everybody to have a house. And I saw on the web that this little 9-year-old girl decided that she was going to build houses for homeless people, and she builds tiny houses for homeless people. And she gets clothes that would be put into the landfill, and that's what she insulates them with. She insulates them with old jeans and old stuff that's being thrown away. I showed her, I had this video of her using a hammer gun. So she's insulated, she gets the roof, she paints the inside. She's like on her 5th house. 9. I don't like nails. I don't like noise. And I don't like, what can you tell? Heavy lifting. But there's always something you can do. There's always something you can do. Because at the end of this life, since, as the Native Americans would say, today's a good day to die. And when we lay this body down, we will care about how much we loved and how much we contributed. So we can't wait, really. So we could make an agreement that we contribute. How did I put this down? We contribute to making the world a better place. We can make an agreement if you choose. I agree that I can make the world a better place. So what really inspired me is that another woman in our church had a fifth, I think it was a 5th grade class, and that class, she loaned them the money, and they built a tiny house for a homeless woman and her child. Painted it. I saw it on Facebook. It's gorgeous. They painted it, painted big flowers on the outside, furnished it. All of that in their class. And I thought, well, I can support her because she paid for the money. She contributed the money so that the students could have the materials to build the house. And so what I can do is help raise money to pay her back. So they all sold, so I'm not going to try to sell you any. But I made cards like this that are off of your house, your happy house. So I made cards out of happy house, because everybody should have a happy house. And so I'll be selling those. I brought the first batch. They're all gone. So that I can pay Rose Palmer back for what she invested so her children could make a house for one woman and one child. And then I decided I'm just going to keep selling these and donating my money so people can buy materials to build houses, because I don't want a nail. But I don't mind raising money. We can all do something. Take a deep breath. Now's the time for me to ask. What does the Holy Spirit, the inner teacher within you, say to you about your greater yet to be? What is a promise you can make to yourself? Just like the 10 Commandments sound like a don't or a do or you have to. It's really a direction to travel. And it also states the end. What is the end that you want? And then form it like I agree to, because then it gives you the path to take to that end. I want to be outlandishly inclusive. So I agree to be outlandishly inclusive. And to watch then every time I want to close my heart to a person or a ideology that I don't agree with. I don't have to agree, but I shouldn't close my heart. And so if I make an agreement with the presence of God within my soul that I agree to be outlandishly inclusive, I will end up being outlandishly inclusive. What does the highest part of you call you to be? If you choose to, write that down. Say something like, this is my agreement. I am, and then fill in the blank. I was talking to a friend last week, and he said that when he was in the S program, and I was in the S program, but I don't remember this. He said that if you could get one other person to agree with you, you could do anything you set your heart on doing. And maybe that's sort of like Jesus saying, where two or more in agreement is established on earth as it is in heaven. I don't know what you're writing down, but I agree with you. If you want to stretch and you want to become, I agree with you. I am in agreement with the highest vision that you can have for yourself. And from that place, I bless everything that is written and everything that is held in the heart. I bless the establishment of a new idea and a new way of living. I bless it because I know that the presence of God has brought us to this place so that we can look into our future and look into the vast potential that awaits us. Just as Joshua and the children of Israel looked into Canaan and saw this beautiful green agricultural wonderland, so we can look into our future and claim it for ourselves. Stake your claim. Make the agreement. Know that it can be done. Know that I agree with you. And then take a step. And it is done, and so it is.